pressure because all of a sudden Planned Parenthood became controversial to them. So the fundraising that was done yesterday was in response to that and has, at least for the current year, made up for the amount of money that they're not providing. And the good news, I guess, is that the furor is really been raised against Susan G. Komen. Annette is over here, and Annette Browder is with us. She's the development director for Planned Parenthood Arizona, and she can tell us about the fundraising that's going on and other ways that we can participate in that.
Yes, so thank you, Leon. Yes, we used to receive funding from the Phoenix chapter of Komen. We haven't for a few years, but it was at the tune of about $20,000 a year. And what they funded was for us to bring mobile mammography service to a few of our health centers. We've done some in rural sites, and it's very hard for women to get access to mammography. And then they would be able to get free mammograms. So, you know, that's what it has been effectively cut out by this decision. Now, we do have a good relationship with the local Komen affiliate, and we do not recommend that you stop supporting them because they do very, very good work. I mean, breast cancer prevention, treatment, and research, you know, is very, very, very important work that needs to be done. But we also would love it if you would stand with us and show that we cannot succumb to bullying, and that we will not let them beat us down, and that we will win. And there's a wonderful way for you to do that, and that is to come to our event on March 15th. We have an event. We have discounted pricing for young professionals and students, $40 a tickets. I know Leon is putting a table together, and you can also go to our website. Our keynote is Cecile Richards, so you have a chance to show her as well that you stand with Planned Parenthood. And there's information on the website if you want to write it down. It is advocatesaz.org. It's our political organization that does that. Sorry for the plug.
That's all right. You didn't ask him for money. I'm surprised. And give him money, too. All right, so let's open the floor for any questions anybody has of our panel members. If any, we have a few minutes. We can handle some questions if you'd like. Or perhaps not. Well,
one thing I decided to do, by the way, is the donations that I have made to Komen in the past are going back there.
Well, thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
We've got to check this week.
If you didn't hear that, Stan has announced it, as a lot of people have, that anything they were giving to Komen before, they're now giving to Planned Parenthood. Gail?
Thank you. I just wanted to, I formerly directed a Title X clinic, which is also the federal funding that goes into Planned Parenthood, which is what a lot of the hubbub is about. And it is an ASU clinic. It's called NP Healthcare at Grace, located at Grace Lutheran Church. And people are always surprised when I say Grace Lutheran Church, but I think based on history, as Christy shared with us, that it was the clergy who were so instrumental in keeping women safe. So we have to open our minds on both sides of the fence and see who our allies are. I teach public health in the College of Nursing, and I encourage my students, rather than arguing, to find the common ground and work from there. So do we want healthy families? We sure do. And that begins with a healthy mother. And so that's where I always start my conversation. And I think that, and I even sometimes use one of the things Sherri said to me in a social setting, I don't think she knows this, I talk about this in class with my students, is that you said to me, Gail, how would I take care of these 4 little children if all my energies were going towards one child who was severely disabled? Do you remember that conversation?
The 4 children that I had were very real to me, and if I had had a 5th baby that had to be carried around in a basket until God knows what, who am I not doing justice to? I couldn't knowingly go ahead with the pregnancy, knowing what the consequences could be, not only for that potential baby, but for our family and for my 4 children, whom I would have done anything for.
And just one more soapbox thing about Title X clinics and Planned Parenthood. It's a gateway to health care for more women than you can, and people, men can go there too, they're just not as interested in family planning. That's the truth. But it's the gateway for health care for so many people. You have your health, you get your full physical exam, you're well woman, but then if they identify a problem, they're going to refer you somewhere where you can get the care that you need. And that gets lost in the argument. So that's just my little soapbox piece for today that I hope you take away to your friends and colleagues.
And yes, you can get your pap smears at Planned Parenthood for cervical cancer testing. And a couple of us here are unfortunately experiencing firsthand what happens when a woman skips doing that for a few years and the terrible consequences of that. You know, as you become young lawyers, there will be lots and lots of opportunities and lots and lots of encouragement for you to participate in pro bono activities, find avenues to volunteer in the community, and of course, you know, Planned Parenthood. Not that we have anything to do with Planned Parenthood from the Liberty Project. We're completely independent of everything. Planned Parenthood is a wonderful opportunity to do that. And so, with that said, is anybody else? Up here in the back.
I can just have a question. I was wondering
I'm sure you could.
if any the speakers could just discuss the difference in political climates before Roe and currently regarding attitudes towards reproductive rights, and what was maybe similar or what's changed, and how is the discussion different today than it was then?
The question is whether anyone on the panel can comment on the differences in the overall political climate before Roe, after Roe, now. Is that something that...
During the time I was, it was silence. Nobody spoke about it. Abortion was just, huh? But now I heard Mitt Romney say the other day that were he president, the first thing he would do is strike down Roe v. Wade. I don't know if he's got the power to do that, but it's frightening.
I suppose I have to wonder, could John Kennedy have been elected as, if he, I mean, given the problems he had being Catholic and running for president, if he then tried to come out with the Democrat position, was that, I mean, would that just, what kind of problems would that have created?
You know, I'd like to add one thing about John Kennedy. My prime concern was not to start the abortion controversy, because I knew from nothing about it, as you can tell, but was to warn people about the drug. And my comeuppance was when John Kennedy went on national television and said, clean out your medicine cabinets. He couldn't say anything else, but that was my victory.
And what did the Pope have to say to you?
Well, the Pope wasn't so nice. He said, murder had been committed in Karolinska Hospital, and named me and the doctor as accessories.
I think we're the only Jewish family that's been excommunicated by the Pope. I'd just like to say, in answer to your question, my understanding of the political climate, in the 80s you saw incredible violence targeted towards abortion providers and clinics, and it became kind of the calling card of the ultra-conservative. We saw in the 2004 election that that calling card became gay marriage and the marriage amendment that was proposed by Bush at that time until he got elected, and then that didn't seem to be such a priority. What's happened this week with the Susan G. Komen Foundation being threatened and pulling their funding of Planned Parenthood for the sole reason that Planned Parenthood also provides abortion as well as a full spectrum of reproductive health care, I think what we're seeing, and maybe Facebook is part of it, is that people aren't letting this be a political issue in the same way. You know, you see the donations that have gone to Planned Parenthood in the last 48 hours, and I think that's people saying, we're not going to fall for this. We're not going to ostracize Planned Parenthood because they provide one service that some people need that's part of a full spectrum.
It shouldn't be a political issue. It should be a medical issue, period.
But it will always need lawyers and people like you and advocates, because we don't want women using air compressors and lye and hangers.
The entire political system in this country, if it's not broke, it's awfully close.
Touch the mic.
Can you hear me now? That's better. The entire political scene in the United States has obviously changed in the last 25, 30 years. Not because of this, but it certainly has an impact on this. You have people radicalizing in both directions. And on the right, one of the main issues they have is abortion. And they just keep bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back. And the interesting thing is, if they had won this issue, if they ever won it, the next thing they'll do is birth control. Because before Roe v. Wade, the big enemy was Griswold v. Connecticut, which was the birth control decision. And, you know, these are all people who say, stay out of my lives, but I'm going to hang around your bedroom. And that's exactly what's happened. And given the political climate, it does get rockier today because everything is rockier. Part of it is Facebook and social media, which brings it out so fast. And people seem to say, well, it's on the internet, it must be okay. That's like 95% of the internet is okay. I kind of think of it the other way around. But that's, I don't know how else I can answer that. I do know that some of the Republican candidates have said that they will make sure that it's a litmus test for any appointee to any Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. And Mitt Romney did make the statement he made that was quoted a minute ago. I don't know where he thinks he's going to have that power, but given his political philosophy, I guess he thinks he does. Benevolent dictatorship is what he thinks about it, and that's basically what he thinks.
You know, speaking politically, if this were to happen to me today, I'd have all of you, and I'd have Gloria Allred on one side and Gloria Steinem on the other. And as Gloria Steinem said to me once, poor baby, you had to do it all alone. There was no talk, there was no groups, there was no pro-choice, and it was just, it just wasn't.
I was just going to share a little story of about 15 years ago, as the best friend of another 15-year-old girl who had been having sexual relations with her 25-year-old soccer coach. She got pregnant, and I was her best friend and her main support, so trying to help her find, you know, the resources where we could go and seek an abortion. And it was, you know, even post-Roe v. Wade, it was very difficult to find the right places. We kept ending up in pro-life places unknowingly, and, you know, having that type of influence. I imagine today it might be different with the accessibility to information, but I think that whether politically or socially and how it's all intertwined, it still is such a fight to make sure that people have access to the information and have the ability to make the choices that are right for them without that kind of pressure.
One of the things that Stan and myself have done and that the Liberty Project is currently working on is facilitating the judicial bypass procedure for teens in need. Stan and I both did, well, Stan did it on his own, I did it through Planned Parenthood, I guess. And the Liberty Project is now, students in the Liberty Project are putting together a resource that can be found online for that. And of course, you're all welcome to come to our meetings, which are very, very productive kinds of events. They typically happen in a bar. Actually, they always happen in a bar. But there's a lot of research that then gets done beyond that, and doing and getting people through the judicial bypass process is definitely one of the things that we do.
Yeah, will you talk a little bit about how we speak about it? For example, we don't use pro-life.
We? Remember you Planned Parenthood people in Liberty Project, you have the wall of separation.
We Planned Parenthood, you know, and how we'd like to, they're anti-choice.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, and that's making this point, and you know, there are labels that get used and get thrown around all the time, and you hear them all the time, but really, you know, I consider myself to be pro-life, I consider myself to be anti-abortion, but I also consider myself to be pro-choice. And those things are not inconsistent at all. And when you hear statistics about the people, the women who die, you know, from illegal abortion, you know, you understand what it really means to be pro-life. When you work with, I used to be a high school teacher, you know, and we'd work with these teenagers who had no idea how they even got pregnant. You know, and you know, truly, it sounds silly, but and it was 1984, 1985. But you know, I mean, not only do you meet the girls who think they couldn't get pregnant because they were on top or they stood up right after sex, but they didn't know that sex and pregnancy actually went together. Okay? I mean, that is out there. That was out there then. You know, these people aren't getting abortions because, they're just being promiscuous. They need abortions because they're not ready to have, to have kids or be responsible, for raising a child. Nobody's out there saying, oh, let's get people to have as many abortions as we can. So we're all anti-abortion, but your choice, you're pro-choice. You think that the legal decision, the emotional, personal decision that this involves belongs to the person who's got to carry that pregnancy to term and to no one else. And if that person wants to involve their parents, the father, their clergy, their teachers, that's up to them. It's not up to anybody else to tell them who they have to go talk to. All right? That's their decision to make. And you can give them all the support in the world, and you can give them all the resources in the world, but you can't tell them what they have to do. And so there's an anti-choice position, there's a pro-choice position. I talk about, there are two extreme positions you can take. One extreme position is you can't have an abortion under any circumstances, no matter what. And we hear that a lot from people like Rick Santorum, who's actually being considered possibly a candidate for president. Absurd. The other extreme is not abortion on demand. The other extreme is what goes on in China. You have to have an abortion. You can't have more than one child. It's against the law.
Or aborting female fetuses.
Aborting female fetuses. That's an extreme position. Saying we're going to leave that decision up to the mother, however she wants to make it, under whatever circumstances, that's as middle of the road as you can get. That's the choice position. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to do that, Annette, but you got me started.
I think so.
Sometimes I think what we really need is a pro-education position, because you look at the abstinence-only training, and that keeps young people from having sex about as well as outlying abortion keeps people from seeking abortions. So that may be where we're going politically, is that we really need the education and the access to contraception.
That's very true. I remember when my father was teaching, he was a counselor for a few years at a junior high school. If you know my father, you laugh at that one, but in any event, he was a counselor. And one day, a 13 or 14-year-old girl walked into his office. This was a school that was 7th through 9th grade. She must have been 14 or so. And told them she needed to find a place where she could get an abortion because she was pregnant. My father says, I can't help you with that, I don't know. This is pre-Roe, obviously. And he said, what happened? And she said, well, I don't know how I got pregnant. I take the pill, I steal one of my sister's pills every time I had a date.
Oh.
Well, her sister was also pregnant because this girl was stealing her sister's pills. And as a result, you talk about a lack of education. That's not the way it works. And these kids did not know that. And the two of them were pregnant at the same time. And later on, my father found out it was the same guy.
Oh.
Well, I'm not sure it was his fault. It was their fault too. All three of them were involved in this. And who knows? But that kind of stuff happens. And and he told me that the younger one especially was just, she had an IQ, a very limited IQ, did not understand what she was being taught very well, and just didn't understand what life was about yet. And there she was, sexually active at the age of 14 and pregnant. Yeah, it happens. And there's nothing anybody can do to prevent that kind of thing from happening to somebody somewhere, somehow. And it's a sad story about our education system, but it's true. And because, those are reasons why we need to keep it the way it is, the way it should be. And one other thing, we talk about access. Abortion is not that easy to find if you don't live in a major city. About 90%, that's a wrong percentage, but if you look at the land mass of the United States, about 90% of the land mass of the United States probably does not have an abortion facility available to them. They have to travel to go. And that really does not speak well for the medical community and the provision of medical services to people who need it.
Well, and as the young woman was stating, I mean, even in a big city, it's not that easy to find because there are dummy clinics and dummy advertisements up, and the people who call themselves pro-life will advertise, you know, an abortion clinic, and then when they get you there, they'll show you this, they'll lock you in a room and show you a movie called The Silent Scream until, you know, they brainwash you into believing what you're
Unless
doing.
it's their daughter.
Unless it's their daughter.
And this, I remember this very well. Can I be heard now?
That needs to be green.
How's that? There we go. One of the doctors who began doing abortions here early on, I won't name names, mentioned to a group of us at one time, in fact it was at a Planned Parenthood meeting, that one of the leaders, one of the 2 or 3 top leaders of the anti-choice movement at the time, I won't name her either, mainly because I don't know her name anyway, brought her daughter to him for an abortion because she was unmarried and the mother did not like the boyfriend. Now you talk about hypocrisy. That really did the trick for me.
Let's take another question here.
Yeah, I have a question that's talk about civil discourse. This is an issue that hasn't been addressed today. It doesn't usually get addressed in these kinds of discussions, and it's something I've lived through twice. I've had 2 abortion stories that I've lived through. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the first one is my first child was with a woman other than my wife, and she had a gambling problem, and we had a fight about the gambling, and she insisted that she was going to leave me and gamble and get an abortion. And she listened to me and didn't get an abortion, and now my daughter is top of the class in school. And my second one was with my wife. We were told that our daughter would probably be born with Down syndrome, and we decided that we wanted to have a child anyway, and so she was born perfectly healthy. In these situations, the issue that comes up is all 4 of you have said that this should be the woman's choice, solely the woman's choice. And I feel, as a father who in both of these instances felt like I had some say in it, I ought to have had some say in it. In my case, I've got 2 beautiful girls because of it. But what do you think about a father's position, where if the mother and the father don't agree,
I think that's the essence of choice, essentially, is that, you know, if a woman has a partner who says, this is the right thing and I'm here for this, I think that would probably influence her decision. And I think that not being in a position to have to terminate is important. What do you, I mean, I know my dad was always like, why do they only want to talk to you? I was there too, but I think it's really important that when a woman sees what she can do for a child, that having a strong partner or having someone who's going to care for the child is really important. But again, I think that's a personal choice.
Well, I think, you know, you want to address the legal issue that gets raised in that, you know, what is the father's legal right? The hypothetical that you might want to examine on that isn't necessarily your situation as much as it might be where the doctor says to the woman, you know, going through with this pregnancy could kill you, or could, you know, cause you permanent physical damage, and you may never have another child, and the woman wants to terminate, should the husband be able to stop her? Or should not, whether it's the husband or just the father of the child, which because it could be an out-of-wedlock child, should the father have any rights to stop her? I think there it's pretty easy to see that that choice has to be left with the woman. I think legally, that's where the demarcation comes, or the argument is made. This is affecting the woman's body. It's not an issue about, you know, the future well-being and what's going to happen. You know, is there going to be a nice family unit? Is everything going to be fine? This is affecting the woman's body, and the legal right, the liberty stems from that. The rest of the, you know, the philosophical side of that is very different. It's just what we said before. You know, when you have the right to choose, you also have the right to draw on anyone to help you in making your choice. But you shouldn't be forced to, you know, have to go talk to your parents, or forced to have to go talk to the father of the child if that's something that in your situation you don't.
None of those issues came up in my situation.
Yeah, I understand that. Your situation was...
My question is, in my situation, the mother's health wasn't at risk in either situation. In the first case, she wanted to abort the pregnancy to spite me. And the second one, the doctor advised her that the child may be born with Down syndrome. And in that case, we didn't disagree. But had we disagreed, the mother's health wasn't an issue. In situations like that, what should the legal policy be?
That's more of a social question. I don't think the courts or the legislatures or I or anybody is in a position to say to you that it has to be one way or the other. I think that's between you and your wife. It's a part of the relationship that the two of you have, that you have to work it out. And I don't think that that's a place where the law should intervene. I think I can distinguish that from the situation that Leon talked about, but in your situation, okay, you got together and you talked about it and she agreed with you. If she didn't, I don't know that there's anything you can do about it, but the fact is that that is more a question for your relationship and how you work things out in general. Admittedly, this would be one of the most important questions you would have to resolve with your wife or your partner if you're not married, but it's really a social issue between the two of you, not a legal issue. I hate to see that one go to court.
Well, actually, let me say the legal issue has. I mean, the spousal notification as a requirement to get an abortion has gone to court, and it was part of the Casey decision. And it was the one part of the Casey decision that had the most agreement from all the justices in striking that part of the bill down. So, the Supreme Court even, by and large, most of the members of the Supreme Court agreed with the concept that at the end of the day, you cannot require a spousal notification that's going to give a de facto veto.
Agreed.
And that's what the law is.
Agreed, but what I'm saying is you have a situation here where he's saying, shouldn't I have a role in it? And I think that's, in my view at least, yes, he should have a role in it. But I agree with the court's decision that that's up to them. If the wife doesn't want to tell the husband she's pregnant and having an abortion, she can't be forced to. She can't be required to. That, again, goes to the nature of their relationship, doesn't it? If she's not willing to talk to him about it or afraid to or whatever, that's between the two of them. That tells you something about their marriage.
Now, I'd like to take up this discussion again at the next Liberty Project meeting over beers, which is how we do it. I don't know when that's going to be, though. We haven't set that yet, but we will. We've run a little bit over, so I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to especially thank our panel members, Christy, Sherri, and Stan,